The people they won't leave. What is threatening about divesting of one piece? The protest is what they're protesting. It goes against what our country is funding. Block the barricade until Palestine is free. Block the barricade until Palestine is free. When I was 7, I learned a lesson from Cuban Easy E. What was it again? Oh yeah, fuck the police. Actors and badges protecting property in a system that was designed by white supremacy. But the people are in the streets. You can pay off Meta, you can't pay off me. Politicians who serve by any means. APAC, Kofi, and all the companies. You see me so here, around the land of the free. But this generation here is about to cut the strings. If a band TikTok take us out the algorithm, but it's too late. We've seen the truth, we bear witness. Seen the work of the villains, the mothers and the children, and all the men that you murdered, and then we see how you spin it.
You know how hard it is for me to pause. It's so hard, Shawn. It's so hard. It's so hard. It's so hard. Happy Friday.
Listen, happy Friday to you and everyone that's tuning in. Welcome. Focus Friday. We back. If I look a little bit different than I usually do, understand something right now. You've now joined with Jamaica Miles and Shawn Young from New Orleans. Having a great time at the National Consortium for Higher Education and Prison with many amazing individuals, many amazing folks from across the country coming together to share different ideals and practices, etc. Much love. This is the New Orleans look. I might rock this the whole show, Jamaica.
Okay. It's good to know. It's good to know that's how we're gonna. Yeah, that's what we're gonna do. But glad you were able to make it. We, apologies for the late start, folks. Technical difficulties. We're not new to what that looks like, but we're here now because there's plenty for us to talk about. Focus Friday Live, the news from our community for our community, the Black perspective, and there is always a lot to talk about. Just off the top of my head, a couple things that, we might not get to everything today, but we know there are local elections that we have to pay attention to.
Facts.
We know that federal level, there's still a whole bunch of bullshit going on. And what does that mean for us locally, including the fact that we are still fighting for a free Palestine? That's real. That's real.
Free Palestine, always and forever.
Yeah. It's really fun because whenever Roman hears someone say Palestine, he literally goes, free Palestine. Like,
Boy,
that's my
being raised right. All right, let me take the costume on for a second. Peace, y'all. I'm here.
But it's real. What's happening internationally does have an impact on our local communities. That's something that our local communities are not always aware of. That I had a bit of a rant on a live the other day because our current president thinks that it's really important to be able to figure out how to deport U.S. citizens who are convicted of violent crimes. How about we start there, right? Let's start with the current president wants to be able to deport U.S. citizens who have been convicted of violent crimes.
I mean, I feel like you said, he's trying to figure out how to do that. I think he's already figured it out. Just ignore the court's orders, right? Ignore the court's rules and ignore the Constitution. It's a really scary place that we find ourselves in Jamaica for someone that's formerly incarcerated and someone who's already had to deal with the system and someone who has watched many individuals be abused and neglected and locked up for life. By the system while innocent, actually, but even beyond just innocence, just being stuck in a cage for many, many years of your lifetime that you can never get back. The most valuable, I think, commodity we have as human beings is the time we have on this planet, and that's been stripped away, and by our government for many, many years. And this is just another step in that equation. Like, why would we be surprised at this point that this is where we're at in this country? The chant that you came up with, wake up. We need to wake up. We need to rise up and we need to resist, because what's happening now isn't just impacting us directly as people, residents of the United States. It's going to impact our children and our children's children for many, many years to come. So what you do today does matter, especially when you're thinking about the young people that are going to face the standards set by the elders, which is us right now. So we need to stand up and fight.
And let's say the thing that we need to say out loud. Black and brown U.S. citizens who will be deported,
Always.
the first to go. Is right? Because what I said on my live was, is he deporting himself?
Of course
Is
not.
Trump going to deport himself?
Remember,
because he has been convicted of a violent
the
crime.
reality is the rules that are set are not set for them, right? At least in their minds, it doesn't matter. Like those rules are for everyone else. The rules that are set are changed for us, not for them, right? So no, he won't deport himself. Obviously, he won't deport his friends. He's going to pardon his friends. He's going to make sure they have a pathway for it. Mel Gibson getting his gun rights back after beating the hell out of his wife some years ago. The rules don't count for them. It only counts for us. They're changed for us, period. And I think that this goes back to what we talked about before about the hypocrisy. We keep pointing out the hypocrisy and the difference in treatment and difference in values from the powers that be. At what point do we say, I'm done talking about that as much? We got to keep pointing it out, I guess. But what are we going to do about it, Jamaica, is the question.
I mean, what the easiest thing that people can do is like, love, share, subscribe, join us on our email list. Make sure you know when there's upcoming workshops and trainings and actions. Be in the know. Don't wait for the algorithm to maybe show you the thing that you might need to know. Don't rely on mass media. And I mean, Republicans agree with us, right? Republicans always say fake news. Yeah, we're saying that mass media is not doing its job. Journalists are not being journalists. They're reporters who are reporting what the status quo and those in power are telling them to report. They're simply handing over the cliff notes that press secretaries are giving them and saying, I'm reporting to you this story. It's a story. Who's telling the story? If it's not about us and by us, y'all better find a new source. So yeah, like, subscribe, love, all that stuff. Make sure that you're getting some independent sources of information. Start there.
I mean, yeah, please do. Start there. Let's grow this platform. Let's have these conversations. Let's get more in tune with the Black perspective, with people that come out of the community, that work in that community, constantly engaging with folks. Let's have these conversations. Please share your thoughts, share your ideas, and let's just talk about it, right? We got to talk about it Tuesday. We got Focus Friday. That's how we I think begin to raise more awareness, educate the community, and also share with the community, learn from the community about what's needed and what they think are the next steps in this work. At minimum,
because
we got to resist.
Yeah, absolutely. We have to resist. And it's not that we have a shortage of knowledge and information in our local communities. Some brilliant minds that are every day showing up and leading the way. Not just me and Shawn. It's just not us. There's other people too. And right now we've got over 70 people registered for the event on Sunday. It's a Zoom where we're going to come together and talk about how are we going to build the movement? How are we going to build community? What are the things that we need to know? How can we educate each other? That's on Sunday at 6. And every Sunday at 6, we've got another opportunity because we recognize that it takes all of us. And that when you see one of us, you should see.
Say that. You better say that, Jamaica. And that's the I think that's the idea that pushes us forward. For too long, we've operated as individuals. It's promoted to us that it's better to do it on your own, take care of yourself, and forget your neighbor. We outsource our defense and our safety to people that are not from our communities, and we rely on our media to kind of tell us what we should think about any particular thing. Remember, the media is on the ground, first person, getting that experience, and then sharing back with us. And what they're doing now is sharing back a particular message, right? That doesn't talk about what's happening in our communities, what's happening state and federal government in a way that's really from the perspective of the community, right? There's a lot of bias in our media. There's a lot of, I think this stance of like you just said, supporting the status quo. And it's important that people hear from the community, from their people, right? There has to be some, sort of approach from the community or some way or mechanism for the community to have their voice heard, and we're trying to do that as much as possible. So once again, like Jamaica said, click, like, share, spread the message. Let's continue to have these conversations and let's grow this platform so we can, I think, engage with one another and talk about the things that matter to us.
And I know this wasn't on the list of things that I had put out there, Shawn, but it is one of your favorite topics. The importance of engaging young folks,
Yeah.
and that they have opinions. And I bring this up for those that don't know, we have interns in our office. We work with both University at Albany, Schenectady City School District. We also are in Albany middle schools. We have access to young people all the time. We don't have to ask them questions. They tell us their opinions. And some young people over the last couple weeks have shared with me specifically their concerns that, one, they are told directly, you're too young to have an opinion. And two, that they have opinions and they have concerns, and they want to be further engaged. They want to help their communities. So Shawn, why don't you talk about why it's important for us to have young people involved in this work?
Well, I mean, the first point of fact that I'll bring up is a historic one. Young people have led all the major movements in this country. All the major movements, starting from the civil rights era and before that, in the early 20th century, 1920s, 30s. I'm thinking of Octavius Cato. Damn, I almost could forget his name. Octavius Cato. Look him up if you don't know who he is. He was a leader similar to MLK back in the early 20th century. Young man. And beyond that, young people have always led the movement in Jamaica. They've always been the ones that stand up and fight the hardest. I think they've had less time of being, I think, beaten down by the system or the standards that beat. And they are the ones that are like, we want change right now, right? As much as possible. And I think that not only do they have like great ideas, they have the energy and the spirit to move the people, right? Like we're older. We look young, but I'm just about to turn 30 next week. And I know. Anyway, you don't have to laugh that hard. Anyway, well,
I'm sorry.
My point is that in all seriousness, from SNCC, from SNCC to the Panthers and any of the great movements of yesterday, young people are the ones that have led that work. Young people are the ones that had those ideas. Young people are the ones that had that energy to push the envelope as much as possible. So I'm really, really always, and me and you both, right, are into youth development and pushing our leaders up front. We did it in the beginnings of all of us, all those young people that came out with us to push back against what we've seen happen to Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, Nina Pop, George Floyd, and so many others. And today is no different.
Yeah, so I just dropped on the screen. We have a workshop that we do. It's called Students Against Racism, and we very much educate our young folks about the fact that it has always been young people.
Yeah.
This is a sample, y'all, of just some of the actions, activities, and movements that have happened that were led by young people.
Yeah.
And Shawn already mentioned SNCC and those other things. The Black Panther Party, that wasn't old people.
Yeah.
Bobby Seale and Fred Hampton were not even 25 yet, right? And as I sit here 50, I know how young 20s are. But Standing Rock, A Day Without Immigrants,
Yeah.
the Black Lives Matter protests, we're talking about recent movements as well as historical ones that folks need to recognize, because the people who are in power don't want us to listen to young people.
No, that's
because
right.
they are.
That's right. That's right. And I see I see Figure Bucks in the chat says, regardless of who's president, black or brown, people won't see fairness in the U.S. Maybe going back to the motherland wouldn't be too bad. Well, maybe you're right. That takes a whole plan. But I want you also to remember that we've shed a lot of blood here. We spent a lot of time here. And there's been so many other sacrifices in order for us to have a semblance of equality or equity in this country. Just leaving, giving it all up, and going back to a place, going back to Africa in some way. I understand the sentiment, but it is, I think, a lot for some people. This is a place that, at this point, we've been here hundreds of years. This is home for a lot of people. So I get the sentiment, but this is home in a lot of senses, and like trying to make this place a better place isn't, I think, a ridiculous idea.
No, it's not. And not to go too far down the rabbit hole, but I do want to remind everyone the colonizers did not just colonize this land.
Mhm.
The colonizers colonized the lands in Africa also. The fight against colonization is still happening in Africa. So for those of us that choose, right? Because there are folks that actually have gone back to live in Africa to become citizens in different countries there. Those countries right now are rising up against France and Britain and other places,
Yeah.
right? There are more people in Africa who speak French than there are in France because of colonization.
Yeah.
So we're not gonna miss the fight because we end up on another land. The entire globe is impacted by the colonization that has happened, and the entire globe to this day still has young people
Yeah.
who are part of that work and leading the charge, whether whichever continent you are on, right? That list showed that there was young people in China that are fighting for their rights, and all over the globe that is happening, including in Africa, and especially in South Africa right now, where our current president is saying they're being racist against white people.
Yeah.
So that's really fun. That's young people calling saying, "Sign me up, Shawn. I'm ready
I
to be
know, I
there
know,
on
I
April
know, I know, I
26th."
know. I told him I was
They
going. I
said, "I'm
told
ready
him
to
I
be
was going
there
to
on
be on a
April
live right
26th."
now. I don't know why they're calling me right now. But look, just
April 26th from 10 to 2. If you have a young person in your life between the ages of 13 and 21, and that's not a hard stop. Understand me, that's not a hard stop. If you know someone that's 22, 23, 24, they can come too. But we just kind of put that number out there. The registration link is in the chat. The registration link is on the screen right now. Also, if you go to our page, you can, find that information there. We want to support young people in their growth, in their mindset, and their opportunities to be a part of this work, and also create space for them to share with us the things that they already know.
yeah. I just want to just one more point just on this, like going back to Africa idea. Look, if that's what you feel you need to do for you, we're just saying that the fight is everywhere. All right, the fight is everywhere, and you're in the fight, and what's familiar to you now, versus what may be a little bit unfamiliar with you in another place. But if that's the choice you want to make for yourself, we just trying to make you aware that this fight is everywhere. Colonialism's happened all across the world. Africa is no different, right? And that fight is still going on there. So just have a heads up.
Yeah. Um, and I am feeling really heavy on the Free Palestine, because our mainstream media continues to leave it out of the news cycle.
Yeah.
While the
And
United
Sudan,
States
and what's happening in Sudan as well. Like, yeah,
and the fact that Houthis,
yeah,
that
yeah,
villagers were bombed, and our president bragged
yeah,
about killing villagers who had come together for a ceremony, in community, and he murdered them
yeah,
and was bragging about it on social
yeah,
media. Um, Whether it's the Congo or Haiti or the Sudan or Palestine, the United States continues to fund the murder of civilians. And very clearly, what we've heard from our current president is that he wants to turn Gaza into a vacation spot
yeah.
for the wealthy,
Put
right?
out a whole
So
commercial about it.
a whole commercial
AI
created
generated commercial.
AI,
Yeah, yeah,
right? And so the money that the current president is using to fund the genocide of Palestinians, we don't have healthcare, we don't have housing, our schools are still underfunded, there are still folks that are lacking basic necessities here in this country, but we're sending billions of dollars to the state of Israel to fund their healthcare, their housing, and
yeah. While our
continue
folks
to
can't
steal
even get
land.
like full health
um,
care, right? People suffering, all kinds of
right,
illnesses are getting denied by
right.
their insurance, paying into insurance for years and years and years just to find yourself denied at some point. I think look, man, the
Mhm.
environment is becoming more and more clear for people, and I think that's why we're seeing more and more people react the way they are. And we're at a point right now, like literally, if we allow this to continue to go on, right, unchecked, for the next, what is it? Who's he got? 4 years, 3 years, whatever it is, right? He's not even been in. Yeah. My
Doesn't have
thing
to
is,
be.
if we allow to go
There's a way to
unchecked,
get
if we
him out
don't
of
make our
office.
voices heard, if we don't push on our representatives, if we don't become representatives ourselves in our communities, what we're facing is beyond just an existential crisis, man. Like it is a type of Armageddon in a way that I think we've not seen before. And I'm not talking about nuclear war and all of that, like devastation, but I'm talking about a complete evaporation of constitutional rights, a complete evaporation of even the idea or thought that we have those kind of rights anymore in this country. When we have a state government that can lock up, disappear people without due process and ignore court orders. And what do you think happens next? After, you know what I mean? If they have that kind of power and that kind of control, what do you think happens next in our society? Where the price of everything is going up. What happens when you get hungry, Jamaica? What happens when this entire community becomes hungry and they can't afford a place to live and they can't afford the price of goods? What happens? Right? It's chaos. And I don't want to see that
Right.
world, not for myself, certainly not for my kids, certainly not for our communities at large. And that's what this fight is about to me. And raising this awareness and having these discussions to activate people, understand that, to empower them, understand that what their power is. And once again, the power is with the people.
Yeah. And something else that we've been talking very much about in our communities and within our organization is how are
Yeah.
we preparing ourselves for this inevitable future, right? We already have so many people that are in need, that are struggling, that are facing hardships, and the current federal administration is not making it easier, but instead trying to cut away all of those safety nets that exist and say,
Yeah.
well, I need to save money by making your life harder while I continue to spend money on bombs, right? And on warfare. And so one of the real conversations that we continue to have, and I look forward to again on Sunday, as well as in the future, how are we building community? How are we building an infrastructure where
We
who
keep
keeps us
us.
safe?
That's right.
We keep us safe,
I mean, well, that's the
right? And
question.
what does
But
it look like with the Black Panther Party?
yeah,
The Black Panther Party did it. Fred Hampton at 21 years old had free healthcare centers, had one of the local free food institutions. He was feeding, he was educating, he was worried about healthcare. He built an infrastructure where a community was able to take care of itself. And I know that we can do that again. I also will emphasize though, we going to get our resources. We do not exist in the same economic situation that we did back in the
yeah,
1960s. We're worse off
yeah.
than we were. And the government, local, state, and federal, owe us.
That's our dollars, right? Isn't that our money? The money that we spend in taxes for on everything we get, whether it's our car, whether it's our gas, whether it's our mortgage, whether it's our what we're paying for our kids' clothes and materials, food, etc. All that money is being fed back into the government, and we not getting our money's worth, right? We're not getting our money's worth, and then at the same time, why is someone like you or I, or someone in the middle, whatever, paying more taxes percentage wise than the wealthiest of us, right? Why does that? How does that make any sense? If I'm making 10, 50, $100 million a year, why am I taxed like that, right? Where is that money going? Why can't that money come back into the community? And it's because we now live in a place, and maybe we've always lived here, but there's been more emphasis over the last 30, 40 years about profit over people, about working these businesses in order to extract as much profit as possible, no matter the consequences. So we can watch videos of kids in the Sudan, or watch videos of kids in the Congo, see them being killed by bullets and bombs, or by disease, or but from the extraction of raw material that creates these laptops, creates these phones, and turn a blind eye to it, right? Because of the propaganda that's fed to us about what that really means in our life, and somehow that's their own fault, and the profits that these corporations make. We just live in a different world. It's Orwellian in a lot of senses. You would think it would be a satire that would be fitting for this moment, but we living in that satire. We don't need a satire for us to understand this moment. We're actually living in it, and you can't make this shit up. You can't. And if you're not aware today, man, I
No,
don't know.
but you
I mean,
can
if you're
change.
not seeing what's happening, man, I don't even know.
But you can change it. Like, that's the part that I think, and we talk about it all the
Yeah.
time. I'm gonna keep leaning on it. You
Yeah.
can change it.
You don't have
You
to
don't
accept
have
it.
to
That's
simply
right.
exist in it.
Yeah.
You don't have to accept it. You don't have to tolerate it. You don't have to just bitch and complain. You actually can be part of the solution, because the only change that has ever happened is when it was demanded.
That's right. Everything.
That part.
So yeah, so Jamaica, just moving right along, because I see we're coming up on some time. Local politics, local situations. Tell me what's going on there. What's happening?
So for anyone that's not paying attention, or doesn't watch the news, or really doesn't trust the news, there are local elections that are going to be taking place this November, but we got to get through some primaries first, especially if you're looking at Albany and Schenectady. The mayoral race in Albany is one that folks are having a conversation about. There's been some news about funds that Dorcia Pleers has received. There were questions about it, paperwork that she was supposed to file that she didn't. That's going to have an impact on what that race looks like in Albany. Dorsey is one of the candidates running for mayor. There are also some local seats for the Common Council that folks are watching. Whatever neighborhood you live in Albany, do you know who the candidates are? Do you know who you could even possibly vote for in the upcoming primary for the Democratic seat, right? Um, in the city of Schenectady, they're at-large seats, right? So there's some differences in our localities. The city of Albany, each common council seat covers a specific region. In the city of Schenectady, they are at-large seats. And we have 3 at-large seats that are coming up for election or re-election, depending on who you vote for. And there's some races to watch. I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but trust me, we're going to be talking about it more next week. Currently, the Democratic Party is not supporting the 2 Black incumbents, Marion Porterfield and Damani Farley. They are not supporting them. They have put forward 2 new candidates that have no experience, and they are still supporting John Mudavarian, who also is an incumbent. And there are some questions about petitioning. There are questions about a lot of things that are going to make it interesting. Whether we end up with a Republican seat in the next round of elections in a city that hasn't had a Republican sitting on the city council for quite some time is a possibility. What does that mean for the city? As well as, what is the Democratic Party doing or not doing that may actually not be a part of what they say are their values? These are things for us to pay attention to and watch. If you are
Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
if you are someplace else, know what's going on.
Yeah.
Know what's going
Yeah.
on. Trust me, it's about to be a whole thing, y'all. I can't wait to talk to y'all about it more next
Okay.
week.
You
Talk
did,
about
did
it
you just
Tuesday.
answer you just answered my question, because I was just about to say, we gonna dig into this right now? You want to get into it? It is
Oh,
a
no,
lot.
no, no, no. Talk about it Tuesday, because there are some deadlines coming up.
Yeah.
There are some
Yeah.
deadlines coming up. Talk about it Tuesday. We are going to talk about it.
So just to can I sprinkle just a little bit? I won't get all into it because I know you don't like that when I go off topic. All right, we haven't had a Republican representative in some time. That would be a huge deal in the city of Schenectady, and I think that would also I maybe be a tumbling block for the Republican Party and those ideals that we are so much against in so many different ways. When we're talking about profit over people, they are not the only party that leads it, in my opinion, but they certainly lead it in a more blatant way than the Democrats. And I'm not saying like whether it's Democrats or whether it's Republicans, that either one of them are doing the best for our communities, but that party is definitely one that is more blatantly about profit than they are about people. Democrats
I
will
think
talk
that we're
about the
going to
people,
have,
but also be for the profits. They will hide it a little bit better, I think. And I think that we need to do better. We deserve better, Jamaica. We don't deserve lip service. This is what this thing, my frustration with some of the legislators I've been talking to and some of the speeches that I've heard over the last several weeks, maybe a couple months, is that it's really similar lip service that was paid to us last year and the year before. And we must do better than that. because it hasn't got us the things that we deserve, things that we've demanded, and it's the time has run out on those type of conversations. This goes back to what we were talking about, new leadership being so necessary to this moment in time. We have to have someone with a new vision. We have to have someone who's strong and bold and able to address these issues and take them on in a way that's a benefit to the people, not just to themselves and their seat. All right, that's all I'm gonna say.
No, it's good. It's an important disclaimer is that all of us does not support any party. Not one, not a single one. And as a matter of fact, it is our stance that you shouldn't be worried as much about the party as you should about the people. Okay?
Exactly.
Okay?
How's that pledge go?
Tell your friends.
I pledge allegiance to the people.
Don't
I said the people.
Listen. I know we need to come up with a new one. I don't think we're ready to unveil it yet.
All right, that's all we got. That's all I got then.
But
yes,
pay attention to what's happening electorally in your communities. Know who's running for office. Know what their platform is. Know what their record is, right? If they are an incumbent, what have they been public about? What have they voted on? What are their stances? What can you believe is going to be their stance and how they're going to make your community better if they get reelected? Be an educated voter, get out and vote, and know your power is both in the voting booth and in these streets.
Right. In your communities, talking with your loved ones, talking with your neighbors, talking about the things that matter to you all. That is the way forward.
Showing up at a protest,
that's the way forward.
Making phone calls, sending text messages, going to do political education. Right. Lots of ways to be involved, y'all.
Not just be convenient. Not just looking for convenience of time, right? Not just scrolling through your phone and liking a post or sharing a comment. Actually getting involved for the change that matter. Okay, go ahead, babe.
Let's make sure that we recognize we are over on time and that it's a lot. It's a lot all the time, but we're going to show up every Tuesday and every Friday at a minimum. But if you want to stay connected, be sure to like this post, love this post, share it with your friends, tag your followers in the comments and tell them to like and follow all of us. And then make sure that you do show up when you can and where you can, whether it's joining our email list that you can see on the screen right now or coming to the meeting on Sunday at 6 p.m. It is a virtual meeting. It's virtual, right from your own home. You can be sitting there with your water or your tea or glass of wine, whatever your persuasion is, as we have these conversations and talk about how are we not just building community, not just building the movement, but creating the change that we all deserve. That part. All right, Shawn, we did it again.
We did it again. Focus Fridays. See us here next week. Same time, same channel. We'll actually be on time. Much love. Pay attention. Talk about it Tuesday.
Later, y'all.
With the organizing and learning and bonding ties with the state that's gotta rely on apartheid system to uphold and occupying violent history been repeating for the last 75. The neck but never